him. Chelsea still fifth favourites with the bookies to finish in the top four. Liverpool are second favourites, but Liverpool are currently below them in the table. Granted, it's just a place and a point. Who has the bigger hill to climb for you, Nadem?
You know, even though Liverpool have had this start to the season, there is still the belief that they will find their form. You know, seeing players like Thiago coming back, you know, obviously they were down in midweek, but seeing him come back, there'll be a sense of normality that I think will exist within Liverpool. And they're still capable of going on a run where maybe they win 5 to 10 games back to back. I think for this Chelsea side, you know, again, they're not a million miles away from top four, and especially when you see a club like Brighton in there at this moment in time, surely their manager leaving is going to derail them just that little bit. So it's going to be very, very competitive. But this is the way we thought it would be. This is what we hoped it would be when people are investing in their sides to be able to try and finish in the top four and win leagues. Like, no one should really be going backwards like that. So I think Liverpool will find their form at some point. And I think Chelsea, they're also very, very good. As Craig was saying, they are a good side. They've got really good players. And to give them credit, you know, we can talk about Potter coming in and maybe not being respected by the players. Well, I don't believe that to be the case for players like the ones who exist at Chelsea, because for as much as there's an ego, the sense of ego because of success, and that success has come from hard work, and I think that's a change in mentality which has happened a lot around a lot of football clubs around the world over the years. So I think if his methods are good and proper and he can set them up in a way which makes them better, I think Chelsea will be fine. But I still feel like Liverpool finish above them just because when they click into gear, you know, the only team that's really been able to sort of stay with them over the last few years has been Man City. So I think it's a bigger challenge for Chelsea potentially, but I think if it clicks, they'll be just fine.
Just briefly, I'm not suggesting, and I know Nedum's not saying that, but I'm not suggesting the Chelsea players would disrespect the manager. But trust me, when results don't go your way, look at Ralph Rangnick at Man United, who's not really a big name, but he's been around the block. Look, when results don't go your way, it's much easier to leak stories out about the training's not right, and this is not right, and that's not right, with a guy who's not so revered in the game. It's much easier to try and throw him under the bus than it is some of these bigger guys. We saw it last year at Man United. How many stories do you see coming out of City? How many stories do you see coming out of Liverpool? You don't, not really. But whenever these managers go in that players just look at, and there's no doubt the United players were looking at Rangnick, and he was looking at them, don't get me wrong, and saying, what a load of rubbish. But they were looking at him going, training's garbage. This is garbage, it's all his fault, and they leak stories out. It is much easier to do it when you think a manager is weak and maybe shouldn't be there. And that's the only downside, potentially, I can see to this.
Well, obviously Liverpool have had their troubles to start this season too, Jules. Where do you stand on who has the bigger hill to climb?
Well, Klopp said after the defeat at Napoli that they will have to reinvent themselves. Not sure how he will do that and what does that even mean. But certainly Potter will have to reinvent Chelsea right now because he's a new manager. He will have very different ideas. Even if they both play three at the back, he will have different ideas to Thomas Tuchel. He will have a different philosophy. He will want different things certainly from some of the players. So this is a very different process because, like Nadem said, Liverpool, they know exactly, it's just not clicking right now. There's a lot of players out of form, but at some point that form will come back or certainly will pick up and they will click again, like they've clicked for the last 6 years that Klopp has been there. For Chelsea, we will see when they click and the Potter, they might click very quickly and things are great and there's a manager bounce and then they keep the bounce and they improve and progress and have a very good season. But it might also take 2 weeks, 4 weeks after the international break, maybe a bit longer, because they will also play every 3 days, so there will be less time on the training ground that maybe Potter would have wished for. So that would be fascinating. But I think that right now, if you look at it, surely it's Chelsea with a brand new manager, someone who, again, is new to all of this, new to a top club, new to that kind of pressure, new to that kind of dressing room, compared to Klopp, where, okay, it's not been great for them so far. They've had injuries, but at some point those players are going to come back, find their best form again, and things should improve for Liverpool. So I would still think that Liverpool should finish above Chelsea. But, you know, if Potter hits the ground running straight away, then I think they could be onto something very good at Chelsea as well.
I've had a thought.
Oh, good.
I've had a thought. Every sacking has a silver lining. This is great for everybody's predictions at the start of the season. Everyone. If you've gone for Chelsea outside the top four, like me, I had them in fifth. and you've gone for Arsenal and Tottenham, like me, in third and fourth. There's a get out here. Wow. Wow.
Don't think we haven't brought those up, those predictions. We've been happy to do that.
What's that? The predictions are out the window now. Because if Chelsea get in the top four, we'll go, well, we didn't at the start of the season. Thomas Tuchel, they'd never get in the top four. Now look at this manager bounce that Jules just talks about. So we're all off the hook with these predictions, Shaq.
Well, some including me. We know what's important to Craig all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Listen, to your question, Kay, I think Liverpool have the higher hill to climb, as you phrased it, just because of what the expectation of Liverpool is. The expectation is that they are the club that are going to run Man City down. They're going to go deep in the Champions League, where I don't think the bar is as high for Chelsea. That being said, though, I think there's a better cushion for Jurgen Klopp if they don't hit those heights, because they've been so good and so consistent for so long. You can accept what happened in 2020, 2021, I think it was, with Liverpool, where they finished top four, and you have faith that he will turn things around and it will come good again. I'm not sure Potter has that soft landing, that if they don't get into the top four, that it will be as well, received, and okay, we'll get it right, just because he's that new in this job.
Liverpool, that one of the lads mentioned, was it reinventing themselves, or Stevie touched on it the other day, back to basics, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, is Trent Alexander-Arnold ever going to be the best defensive fullback? No. But my God, he can be a damn sight better defensively than he was. Right, and that's pulling somebody in a room and showing him and talking to him and maybe putting their arm around him or kicking him up the backside. And he's not the only one. I mean, Gomez got taken off. He was horrendous. Van Dijk has been terrible. Van Dijk has not marshalled that back line this year. In fact, I'll go as far to say we're maybe seeing some flaws in Van Dijk because Liverpool are having to defend more and been more vulnerable because they're not closing teams down the same. They're not pressing the same. Teams are playing around them easier, and so his defensive capabilities are being pressured and questioned more. And we're seeing some flaws in his game as well. So it's completely across that back line at Liverpool.
But both those teams have flaws, but both those managers now have an opportunity with this unforeseen or unexpected break coming in the middle of a season to put things right, or to bed yourself in Potter's case. So how does Jurgen Klopp use this break to set that ship straight? How does Graham Potter use this break to get himself bedded in and get some of his ideas bedded in with Chelsea? So now, if you are not playing well, this break you couldn't ask for this. On the other side of that same coin, if you're Manchester United is the first club that comes to mind, and you're playing well. Despite the Sociedad result, you're playing well, you're winning games. You just want to keep those games coming to a week. So that so this, as I phrase it, unforeseen break can affect clubs differently, and I think we'll know a lot more about the clubs and the managers and how prepared they are to fix it once games do resume.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.